lasers in particular, and that will be around here, 650, 660 is red. And then we're going to see the infrared, which will be beyond the red, will be over here. Okay, so we live in the world of infrared mostly, and that's what I'm highlighting here. So those are the numbers we're going to be using. Now, it's important to realize what happens when different wavelengths encounter tissues. So let's look at, I'm going to focus only on two types of tissues. So on the vertical axis, I have the relative absorption. Emphasis on relative. It's all relative here. Okay. On the horizontal axis, I have the wavelengths. Typical wavelengths, I'm going to show how they react to two components, hemoglobin and water. Those are the two main, quote, interferences to the energy transmission of lasers into tissues. Anyway, so here I'm going to overlay typical wavelengths that we have available, at least in the US anyway. So 650 is the red one, like I mentioned before, is right smack in the middle. That would be a red laser. 810, they're very popular. 810, 910, 910 has a specific property, 980 and 1064. And there's more beyond that. But this is what I call the therapeutic window. Okay. Let's look at the intersection now. 650 is intersecting with hemoglobin, relatively speaking, very high compared to the other wavelengths. So that's one way to say that hemoglobin in blood absorbs the 650 quite readily. And below the skin, of course, we have a strong, rich capillary bed, which means that the red light is absorbed a lot by the capillary bed below the skin, and therefore less will penetrate into tissues. So we can say that red laser is good for superficial type of condition because of this particular intersection right here. There are other factors, I mean, that are more on the technical side, that the longer the wavelength, the less it's scattered, meaning it's more focused. So 650 will scatter more than 810 and more than 980 and so on. So again, these are all relative measures. So because of the higher scatter, meaning it spreads out, and the intersection with red, with the hemoglobin red in the blood, 650 is a poor penetrator into the tissues, but it's good for superficial type of conditions, like skin stuff. Next, we move to a very popular one, this 810. You can see the intersection is much lower, which means that the 810 will penetrate better than the 650, relatively speaking. 980 has the same thing about the 810. It has a particular property. 980 is able to have a superpulse high peak values. And I'll show you a little graphic of the difference between 910 versus 810. What's so peculiar about this? Because both are about the same penetration. But the advantage of 910 is the thermal characteristic. 810 does get hot. In fact, it can be used for surgical, soft tissue surgery. But 910, it is not. 910 is strictly, only, exclusively for therapy. It doesn't cut. 980, notice, intersect with water fairly high, relatively speaking, to the rest. Because of that, 980 is suitable for tissues where we want, clinically, we want the laser to be absorbed by water in the tissue. Okay, that would be the case because in soft tissue surgery, right? 1064, which is the wavelength for neodymium YAG, that goes low again. So there's different properties for that. So this is called the biostimulation window, what I'm referring to. Like I mentioned before, the 980, because it is absorbed readily on water, that's a nice wavelength for soft tissue surgery. It doesn't cut bone, only soft tissue.